Minister and I had a late night meeting with the Director General of Unesco last night, and we made very clear our strong disappointment, even our bewilderment, that our officials have been blindsided in the way that they have. Only a week ago, we were reassured that this was not going to occur.
Simon Boxall is a senior lecturer in oceanography at the University of Southampton. He joins us live from the UK. Simon, welcome back. We seem to have a lot to talk about lately. Unfortunately, it never seems to be good news. So the Great Barrier Reef, first let's talk about it. It is such a natural wonder, thousands of kilometers long, visible from space. When you see this information that it has lost half of its shallow water coral since 1995, it's had 3 major bleaching events in the last 5 years. Is it savable?
It is savable, and I think the big problem is that we've seen these big changes taking place because we're getting repeat bleaching. The biggest threat to the coral reef is climate change, and that's seas warming up, and that's what causes some of the bleaching. Now, corals can survive a bleaching event every so often. The problem is we've had, as you said, 3 in the last 5 or 6 years, and that really puts the reef under stress. But it's not just the coral itself, it's the ecosystem around that reef, which is unique globally. And it's such an important system. You know, there are quite literally tens of thousands of animals and plants that rely on this coral reef as their habitat. Now, of course, putting it onto the endangered list there are 2 problems with that, or there are 2 things with that. The first is it is embarrassing for the Australian government. And they've not actually changed their views on how their carbon emissions will change since 2015. So they've not moved anywhere in the last 6 years. And Scott Morrison, as Prime Minister, has not been a great supporter of doing anything about climate change. But, you know, it's not just down to the Australian government. Globally, we are all responsible for the changing climate, not just Australia. So it's important to take on board the fact that we're all responsible for this change taking place. The positive side, if you can see it as positive, it means that the UNESCO committee, the World Heritage Committee, can actually provide additional funds and support to try and rescue parts of the coral reef. But of course, that's an embarrassment for what is a very developed country like Australia. You know, that the the WHC has to step in and help.
So is it just embarrassment? Does Australia not want to be called out by somebody else? Or is it worried that this kind of designation will affect tourism?
I think it's both. I think, you know, they are aware that the corals around the world, and particularly around Australia, have been under threat. And they're particularly in the spotlight because the Great Barrier Reef is the great thing everyone wants to go and see. There are many other great coral reefs around the world. The Great Barrier Reef is that sort of icon of coral reefs. So yes, it's going to have an effect on both tourism, but also on their reputation, you know, if they can't be seen to protect their environment. And there are, you know, there's the attack from climate change, and that isn't just down to Australia, but there's also the fact that they are still seeing quite high levels of pollution coming in from some of the rivers on the sort of northeast coast, which is also affecting the corals. So both of these things are contributing to some of the degradation of the reefs themselves. So I think it is down to an embarrassment factor.
You know what though, Simon, only 2 years ago, Australia itself downgraded the health of its own reef from poor to very poor. So it must seem to much of the world like they're getting infuriated about something that they themselves declared only years earlier.
Australia has some of the best marine scientists in the world, and you know they've been reporting on this for some time now. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess it's a question of they know they're not doing well. They know they can do better. They are trying to improve things in some areas, particularly in terms of marine pollution. But I guess it's sort of an international organisation such as UNESCO calling them out and saying, look, this is now in danger. This isn't just a major problem. This is now very, very serious. And I think Australia needs to take, along with many other countries around the world, start taking climate change much more seriously than they have been in the past few years.
Simon, that's great information, and I love to hear you say that it is savable. Thank you for that.
Thank you.